This is a tutorial on making brushes. So if I jump into Photoshop, I've got this image here. I'm going to get one of these selection tools. I'll go for object selection. And I'm just going to draw around this character. And straight off it gives me a pretty good selection. You can see there's a few little bits here where it hasn't got the shoulder pads. So I'll go to the paintbrush tool and I'll just fill that area in. I'll make the brush a wee bit bigger so it does a better job. And this area here I'll grab. Now, if I come down here, got the arm and the shadow and everything. If I hold down Option or Alt on a PC, I can take some of these areas out. I might just grab this bowl, so I'll drag it in here. The first thing you'll notice is it does a pretty appalling job because of the darkness of the shadow. If I hold down Option or Alt, I can go back in. Still does a bad job, but it's getting a little bit better. So I'll do this curve here, jumps out a bit, Option, Alt, and I keep going back and forth. And what's happening is the AI is working out exactly what it is that you want. This bit here, I'll add this thing in as well. Alt, take out this little white space, and if there's bits that aren't quite right, just keep going back and forth. So this little bit with the shadow, I can try and Alt, take it out. You see it jumps right out and does a terrible job. But the more I go over it, the more it starts to select these other things. Just going back and forth. When I've got what I want, I can hit the mask tool and it gives me a mask. Now I'm just going to chuck a new layer up, pick a color. My foreground color is red, so I'll go Option Delete, or on a PC it's Alt Backspace, and it just fills that whole layer with the foreground color. I'll chuck it underneath and I've got my image. So now I'm going to go and make a brush. Now making the brush, usually I cut the image and I put it in the channels because the channels automatically make it black and white. If I don't want to go through that whole process, I can just, because it's a different image, I can just go grayscale, make it black and white. As long as you're working in black and white, the brush is going to be okay. So what I do is I push the contrast and look for areas in here. Usually I darken it right up, and I'm trying to push it towards being an abstraction. I can even move the middle slider so I can find bits that I think are going to make a good brush. Darken this. So there's an interesting area in here. So I'll go okay with the levels, and with black and white I can just isolate an area. So I'm trying to isolate this little bit in here because I think this spiral might make a kind of interesting brush. What other areas are there? There's a bit through here. It's kind of speckly area, so I might try that. And I'll try this bit here as well. These kind of, this white area here. Now, what you see is what you get. So I don't want a white but a black circle with white in it, because it'll be the black that it fills with color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go image, adjustments, I'm going to go invert or command I. And now I get these other areas. Sometimes at this stage I can see something else that I think might make a nice brush. So I'm going to define a few brushes. If I make a selection around this, I'll go edit, define brush. Let's call it 1. What else is there? I've got these other ones down here. This is a little bit lackluster now, so I'm going to select it. I'll go Command L, see if I can beef up the blacks a bit, go OK, and then I'm going to go edit, define brush 2, and I'm going to get a white paintbrush. I'll just put it back on normal for a bit, and I'm going to select this kind of funny shape in here as a brush. Edit it, define brush 3, and there was another area up here. Like this, I'll select it because I think it looks a little bit so I'm just going to beef up the blacks a bit, go OK, define brush. So I've got a few brushes in there now, so we'll just fill this all with white, and we'll have a look and see how it starts to look. So black. Now of course when I paint with any of these brushes, I'll just start off with number 1. It's going to look very computer orientated. Command Z. So I have to hit this box that has all the settings in it, and you can see things change down here. So shape dynamics and scattering are the main ones that I use. Size, jitter, you'll get kind of thicks and thins and odd things. The angle jitter is the main one that I play with. And the scattering, I can push that apart. The count, I can thicken it up a bit if I want. And I'll see how it looks. So now you're getting something that's a little more brush-like. It doesn't have that digital quality to it. So I'm going to go to brush 2, do the same thing, see how this one comes out. Shape dynamics, I won't do so much of a jitter this time. Try messing with the angle. Randomize the jitter, might be quite good. Push it apart, count. Try that. So it gets a little bit more realism. So I'll do the other 2. I've got number 3. Now you'll see with the jitter, it kind of it's smooth when it's down, and it gets a bit bumpy and kind of broken up when you push the jitter. Angle, scattering, push it apart a bit. Count. That's quite a nice one. And then I'll do the lucky last one. Number 4. I'll try pushing the jitter up to get that kind of broken up pattern. The angle, the scattering, I'll push it apart. Count. Great, so I've got these brushes in there. I quite like the the third one, so I'll get that. Now the thing that's nice with this is when I come over here is when you use it as a mask. So this thing here, if I don't want to affect the mask that's on that guy, I can actually convert him to a smart object. That just means there's no mask here, but if I double click, it opens up the image, that particular image, and the mask is there, so I can still get in and edit it. Close that. If I make any changes in there, I can save them. But what that means now is I can add another mask, and I know that it's not going to affect the one around the person. So black. Now it looks a bit funny, so what's happened is because I've jumped to another image, it's unfortunately switched all those things off. So I'll go back here. Hopefully I can get it looking as good as I did before. I'll push apart the scatter bit count. And I'm going to have a look in here. New brush preset. There should be something that lets me save it as a preset, but I can't. Maybe I'll try this and see what it does. Capture brush size. Tool settings. Okay, this looks like it might save it properly now. And you can see the way that it kind of eats into that image is a lot more interesting. Now what I can do as well is, like, if I brush that through, I can get it, but I can also change the opacity. So if I change the opacity down, then when I draw in here it's a bit softer, and every time I click and draw there's a bit more, so I can click and kind of really add into that mask, change the size, and start to work into things a bit. So you can actually get a really, really good edge by using kind of homemade brushes and then using them as a mask.